Did you know that the Eastern Electricity Highway project marks a significant milestone in regional integration by creating an electricity highway connecting Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania? The first phase, completed in November 2022, links Walaita Sodo in Ethiopia to Susua in Kenya, enabling a 200 megawatt power transfer since December 2023 through a 500 kV high voltage direct current line, an innovative first for Africa. The second phase, connecting Kenya and Tanzania, was successfully synchronized on December 11, 2024, facilitating power flow between the two countries. Ethiopia currently provides 70% of the electricity traded in the region, powered by green hydroelectric energy from its dams, including the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam and Gilgal Gibe 3. This initiative strengthens regional power security, enhances economic cooperation, and contributes to the broader vision of the Africa single electricity market. In this episode of Ethiopia in Focus, I will be speaking with Yasmin Wohabrebbi, State Minister of Trade and Regional Integration, about Ethiopia's pivotal role in regional projects and efforts to deepen East African economic ties. Today on Ethiopia in Focus, we speak with Yasmin Wohabrebbi on regional trade and integration. So Yasmin, over the past few years, Ethiopia has been actively pursuing regional trade and integration by implementing different strategies and pursuing different initiatives. And these efforts have been part of the aspiration to develop economic ties and relations within nearby neighboring countries, as well as within or global markets as well. Can you start off by giving us perspective in terms of what are some of these initiatives and strategies that Ethiopia has been pursuing as part of its regional trade and integration aspirations and efforts?
Thank you for having me. As you know that in the recent years, Ethiopia has pursued to have more economic reform. At the helm of it, the regional integration comes into picture. With this, we have been passive, but now we are progressing to be very active in terms of regional integration. This is partly because we want to really sustain our economic development. The macroeconomic reform that we have started 5 years ago really tries to address the macroeconomic issue where we had high inflation, where we have foreign exchange shortage, which emanates mainly from balance of payment deficit, where we have export very limited, generating forex, and our import is also in huge demand. So the deficit also implies that the reserve becomes very short. We have heavy debt burden as well. That's one aspect of the macroeconomic issue where we wanted to address, but the second part is the rebalance between public and private sector, where the government was doing heavy engagement in the economy, but with the reform, the private sector is made to have bigger role in the economy. The third aspect of our macroeconomic reform is trade competitiveness. With this, we really want to integrate at a regional level, pursuing some of the regional integrations like the COMESA, more getting into the free trade agreement. We also have the African Continental Free Trade Area that we have ratified and become the founding member. And we have also the World Trade Organization that we have been in the process of accession for the last 21 years. But with this reform, we did the fourth round of negotiation, if you remember, back in 2020. Now we are also preparing the whole preparation for the next round of negotiations coming February. So this can show us that Ethiopia is really looking to achieve from the regional integrations in terms of market access for our export, in terms of diversifying, because our export is more dominated with few commodities, which is also facing a concentration risk. So to mitigate that, also this regional integration will give us a big opportunity to diversify, which also give us also the chance for economic resilience. Plus, we really also aim to get from this regional integration economic transformation, structural transformation, where now we are focused on agri-based economy, even for our exports. But with this regional integration, we can look into our comparative advantage in few areas where manufacturing can also give us a big play, which will help us to do a lot of value addition as opposed to export raw materials, plus create more jobs for our people. So with these macroeconomic reforms that we have been undertaking, we believe that the regional integration is going to solidify and sustain our economic growth, vice versa also for other trading countries.
So in terms of, because the macroeconomic reforms are part of the policy reframing that is being undertaken by the government, and part of the institutional processes or preparing institutions to be able to address some of these efforts. We used to have a Ministry of Trade and Industry, and as of recent, that has been reformulated to the Ministry of Trade and Regional Integration. What does that provide?
So as you can see that from the government reorganizing itself to really fit to the change that we are aiming to have, it can show you that the Ministry of Trade and Regional Integration, the way it is established, is to give more focus for regional integration. If you see 5 years back, this was not the case because we were very closed. The macro situation in itself is not enabling for such kind of regional integration. You may open up your market, but unless you have different comprehensive reforms going on in parallel, you may not be benefiting. But Ethiopia has been doing so much reform that really complements the regional integration, and for having the realization of shared prosperity, this would be also the institutional arrangement that we are having. The ministry that I lead, particularly on the regional integration and export promotion, is mainly focusing in terms of advancing the level of engagement, be it in the COMESA, and also focusing on the AfCFTA implementation in itself, and also hopefully to exceed the WTO in a very short time. So this is not only the institutional arrangements that we have, but we have in other institutions as well, and the coordination mechanism between different institutions and the private sector is also very key to advance our regional integration.
We talk about economic regional integration, but as part of that framework for the past 6 years, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has been a huge champion of political integration, social integration, and due to the fact that the immediate region that we are finding ourselves in, there's a shared culture, shared language by some as well, shared long history. So that really does provide that. Now let's talk about widening this outside of just the immediate region into the continent as well. And like you rightly said at the beginning, Ethiopia is the founding member of the CFTA. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means in terms of Ethiopia having ratified the CFTA in 2019, and what are the preparations that we're undertaking to make intra-Africa trade a reality.
So as you rightly said, Ethiopia has a very strong interest in terms of its neighbor country, the Horn of Africa, and in our foreign policy itself, that is the focus. So the main purpose of that is when countries, especially neighbor countries, you integrate an economy, peace would also be inevitable. So economic integration is the strong glue to tie the countries around us for sustainable and shared economic growth. And beyond that also, we really need to think of how we can boost our economic growth within the continent. If you can see the data that we have, intra-Africa region, regional integration is in a low in terms of the gains that we have. You can compare with other continents. Intra-Africa regional trade stands at 14%. But if you look into Europe, they are at 70%. 69 point something percent. If you look into North America, it's about 46. If you look into Asians, their intra-regional trade is 60%. For different reasons, trading within your continent really, accessibility, it's feasible. But ours, we trade more with the rest of the world than
amongst
the
ourselves.
continent. So this has changed with the establishment of the AfCFTA. Ethiopia has contributed a lot on this. As you know that with the establishment of the AOU and now the AU, Ethiopia always takes the lead role in terms of continental matters. With the AfCFTA also, we really did that. Several negotiations happened to realize the AfCFTA in itself in Addis, so we actively engaged. We did ratify the AfCFTA agreement at a higher body and also get into implementation with offering our concessional tariffs for goods. This shows that our commitment is not only by signing an agreement, but putting all the necessary
steps have been taken thus
far. Yeah. So the good offer is already approved, endorsed by the heads of states. We are now waiting for the gazetting process of the tariff concessions. Once we have that, we are going to pilot the implementation under the guided trade initiative. We have also submitted our service offer, the schedule, and it's under the review of the secretary. We hope to have it endorsed. There are so much protocols that are also being negotiated at this point. If you may recall, sometimes towards October, the African Continental Free Trade Council of Ministers, we hosted it in Addis Ababa for above 20 days. The institutional meetings were happening here in Addis. Some of these meetings were more into diving in the protocols itself and also getting into agreements. You can name it on trade competition, you can name it on investment protection, you can name it on digital. So this is something that we are really pushing for the implementation, at least for the pilot on goods trade. On the other hand, this regional trade really requires different institutions to coordinate. So we have established the National Implementation Committee for it, which is chaired by the Minister of Trade and Regional Integration, but we have Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Finance, Minister of Industry, Trade and Logistics, and Transport, and also we have the National Bank, we have the Investment Commission, Intellectual Property Authority, Ministry of Agriculture, the Authority for Agriculture, so many institutions, and also more importantly, customs. And this, so we have the implementation committee. This national implementation committee is not about starting off the implementation itself.
And it's at a high level, which shows the commitment.
Yes, it's a high
level.
Not just
institutional representation, but a high level council.
And it's a high level council, but at the same time, it's going to be a permanent kind of committee, because when we get indulged into the trade, if there is issues related to customs, the subcommittee under this national committee looking at customs will look into issues. If there are any conflict, or if any claim rise, they look into the protocols, the rules, and they give their own judgments. So there is different hierarchy in the AfCFTA. Accordingly, those issues would be resolved. So this national council that is established is not a temporary one. It will be continuous, and one of the institutions that we have established, we can say that to really manage the regional integration is that.
Okay.
But beyond that also, we have, it's under process, the implementation strategy itself. So the implementation strategy is undergoing. It will tell us where to focus, where is our comparative advantage.
For the CFTA,
yes,
the implementation strategy for that.
The implementation strategy is under finalization. It will give us where our competitive advantage is, where we're going to have the gains, how we're going to really work on some areas that we may feel some kind of unexpected results. So the implementation strategy will help us or guide us with its roadmap, how we're going to implement the FCTA trade integration to make sure that we benefit. Beyond that, also the private sector has to be ready for this, So with that, we are also working to really sensitize, aware them, to make them ready, how they have to prepare themselves to really access those market opportunities in the continent.
At that level as well.
So now they have to really think of exporting more with the right quality, following all the standards and following the rules of origins protocol. So there are different rules in this game. So with that, we are also giving them awareness and making them ready. That's another work that we are doing in terms of the FCTA implementation.
Moving a little bit away from the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement and looking at our aspirations in terms of integration to global markets, you were recently at a World Trade Organization WTO meeting, and Ethiopia's accession to the WTO has been a long process in the making. Share a little bit about that. Where are we now?
So as you know that Ethiopia is one of the few countries that didn't join this global trading system, and for different reasons. Now, I think in 2020 was with this reform that we really make clarity in terms of where we stand and how we want to initiate the accession process. So the fourth round of WTO Working Party meeting was held in Geneva in 2020. And we really wanted to accede long before now, but because of the COVID and different issues that really happened, the progress didn't move faster than we expected it. But now the preparation to undertake the fifth rounds of Working Party negotiation is finalized. The delegation led by His Excellency Dr. Kasa Hungofe, which is also assigned as a chief negotiator, and the team.
He's the Minister
of Trade and Regional Integration, but also chief negotiator assigned by His Excellency the Prime Minister, led the entire delegation from different institutions, of course, and met with the WTO Secretariat to really review the preparation in terms of the next Working Party. So with our meeting, I was also in that meeting. We finalized all the documents required, and it's ready for circulation to member states. And we expect the next round of negotiation to happen in late February or early March. So this is going to show also the commitment from the government of Ethiopia to accede WTO. But the current discussion really showed that most of the outstanding issues that were raised by member states, even by the member states collectively at the multilateral front, but also in a bilateral discussion with countries, has been addressed because of the big macroeconomic reform that we have been undertaking over the last 5 years. So there are, of course, negotiations that is going to be undertaken in few rounds of Working Party meetings, and the government plan is to accede in the next Minister of Council's meeting to be held in Cameroon in 2026. So this is a preparation that is going on, and we are going to also have bilateral negotiations with few countries that we have been doing in the last couple of years. So concluding those bilateral negotiations would also really help on the market access for goods and services to really finalize our WTO accession and really gain from that global trading system.
So Yasmin, as part of not only regional trade, but also accessing global markets, quality has always been a key theme that is outlined and related to the WTO session, but as well as our regional integration efforts. We need to talk a little bit about infrastructure. So in terms of standardization and quality assurances, there has been efforts by the Ethiopian government to prepare, institutions and processes that would support this. And then when it comes to infrastructure, Ethiopia has been engaged in building a lot of infrastructure, preparing logistical frameworks and so on. So let's explore that. What have been the preparations and what are some of the initiatives that the Ethiopian government has taken in this regard?
So as I said, in this macroeconomic reform, a lot is happening. Also, we are opening up our markets at different time. If you can see the recently enacted law, it gives the opening for foreign investors to really come into export-import trade, into wholesale and retail trade. So it shows you that most opportunity, privatization, few of our key sectors already happened. Aside that, also key long-term envisaged infrastructure developments are being carried with huge investments. I can really start with the quality. Quality is at the core of this regional trade. You may have quota-free, duty-free access to any market, but if you look into other technical barriers, you may not even benefit from those access that you have. So you will have to have the standards and you will have to have the qualities in place to really get into those markets, to really penetrate into those markets.
And become
competitive. You need to be also competitive in terms of your prices. So one of the government long-term foresighted initiative, of course the initiative of His Excellency our Prime Minister, is a quality village. This quality village really gives the quality assurance for any goods that are produced in the country, that are, of course, our next exportable items, if not now, for some of them, but also for import goods.
Quality village being the national quality infrastructure.
Yeah, so the quality village consists of all quality institutions having the necessary infrastructure. We have the standard agency, the standards authority, setting the standard for all any goods. And we have the conformity that really assures this standard is met when any product enters to the market, be it imported or manufactured locally. So quality at that level being checked with all the necessary laboratory for chemical, for machinery, for electrical, for food. And so several laboratories are in this quality village on different streams where our products can be having the necessary quality based off the agreed standards. And the standard that we are setting here are also aligned to the standard of the rest of the world, because there is this institutional engagement with different standard, be it in Africa and internationally, where these standards. And then also we have the calibration aspect, the meteorology institutions that really make sure that some of the laboratory equipment that you are using to check the conformity, if they are operating properly, they calibrate those machines this conformity uses. And we have also the accreditation that accredits this institution itself. So it's very interesting to see how the quality village brings all these institutions at the same place, having the necessary technical capacity, but also having the necessary lab equipments that surpass some other countries later in terms of how latest these technologies that we are having. So with this, it's really going to help our export competitiveness, assuring the quality that the global system and the global market requires, following those procedures, following the day-to-day checks, following the monitoring aspect in terms of how our products are being produced is going to be very key to make sure that our products are meeting those standards and also being competitive.
What other infrastructure is Ethiopia working on or has been working on to facilitate regional trade?
So, as you know, Ethiopia is a landlocked country, so unless we focus on making sure that this challenge is alleviated somehow in interconnections with the region, with land access, highway, railway, aviation, it's impossible to really curb that challenge that we have. Mm-hmm. But ultimately also we need to really pursue our ambitious need for accessing to the sea, mm-hmm. Which we are looking into different options. Because it's not about simply we are ambitious, but when we look into the opportunities that are being on the table now, if you are going to access to the WTO, if you're going to really tap to the AfCFTA market, mm-hmm. our economy is going to be big. Our transaction is going to be big. So the inflow and outflow of goods.
There's already a large economy, the third largest in
It's a large economy,
Africa.
so it's inevitable that you will just sit and not address the
120 plus million people.
Million people. So it's from mere demand that this challenge should be addressed. That's how the government is pursuing in terms of accessing. But in terms of road connectivity with different countries, like, for instance, with Kenya, we have the Ethio-Kenya highway project, which is critical. If you look into the Ethio-Djibouti corridor, it's big. It's a project that's really realized with the Horn of Africa initiative. It's really critical. And with different neighbor countries, we really need to build, and we are already building, making huge investments, in hope that these road networks are going to really be very useful in terms of easy flow of goods and business people, because at the end of the day, the AfCFTA is creating a single market where goods and services flow and human people also freely move. So this infrastructure is key. And the Addis Djibouti railway is also critical, by the way, because it really connects us to the port of Djibouti, mm-hmm. where our biggest inflow and outflow commodity happens, because that's the major outlet. So working in terms of boosting the efficiency of that Addis Djibouti railway is critical, not only for agricultural commodities, but now we have started even shipping live animals, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. through the rail and through train. And we also have a big potential where manufacturing could be also one area, even fuel. And this railway also should connect to our dry ports. Mm-hmm. If you see that one of our dry ports is in Dredawa. Mm-hmm. So there is a railway connecting to that dry port. So easily goods can go there. And then from that dry port, also next to it, we have the Dredawa Special Economic Zone. Mm-hmm. So you can see that how the government is very keen, even establishing not only industrial parks, but also special economic zones where special kind of rules apply in those zones.
And as of recent, Ethiopia's industry parks have been elevated to special economic zones as well.
Yes, so we have already got endorsement for the proclamation on special economic zone. And Dredawa is now the first that is designated for the special economic zone. So we hope that is going to really make any transaction, trade, very easy. So this is the connection how I want to show you from the railway to our dry port, from our dry port to the special economic zone, how the government is really thinking comprehensively in terms of building infrastructure and making sure the necessary incentives are also put in place. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. We can look into our ET, because that's also one of...
Pretty big.
Aviation is big.
A huge continental player.
Yes. And it's our flag carrier, where it is the largest airline in Africa.
The recent numbers that I have is Ethiopian Airlines flies to more than 140 international destinations.
Yes.
And more than 65 within Africa. What does that mean, particularly for the Continental Free Trade Agreement?
Yes, so that means easy movement of goods, easy movement of people can really be fast-tracked with service that Ethiopian Airlines is giving. Ethiopian Airlines, as you said, that it really moves even over 14 million passengers a year. The freight is increasing with its excellent cargo services. So you can see that how government is also, thinking the aviation sector to be the key infrastructure. The Ethiopian Airlines is now even expanding its airport. It's a very mega airport. Construction is coming very soon, somewhere close to Addis. Ethiopian Airlines is growing in terms of its fleet size. It has placed order over 100 airplanes. You can see that how, in terms of aviation, also we really want to expand, and with, of course, quality service, where Ethiopian Airlines is also known for. And this is going to be key. Another infrastructure is very key is also energy. Definitely. Ethiopia is known for its renewable energy sources, hydro becoming the big one, but we also have other solar, wind, geothermal that are coming into play more recently. So with energy, we are not thinking about only domestic consumption, but about export as well. We already export to our neighbor countries like Sudan, like Djibouti, and also recently Kenya. So this shows that our commitment in terms of investment which is very huge investment in
and these
energy.
Are huge infrastructure projects. The
Yes.
Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, almost near completion,
Yes.
Being the first largest hydroelectric dam in Africa. Koisha hydroelectric project, the third largest within Africa, almost at 80+% of completion. It really adds great value to some of the things that you're saying in terms of preparedness.
So energy means for Ethiopia also very critical in terms of its growth aspiration, because we really want to leverage our industry that are choked with energy shortage. Like I said, this is going to be bringing huge potential to play when our GERD is fully to the maximum generation capacity, when Koisha comes and other also projects complete. Our internal need and demand would be covered with that, but we also need to really work on the transmission lines. Substation connectivity is very critical to really take that energy generated door to door to where we want. So with that, we are investing a lot. But like I said before as well, this energy we are generating is not only for our internal consumption, but for export. Thinking of also the East African Power Pool, where neighbor countries, even beyond neighbor countries, how energy can flow within the continent is something that is big in itself.
What is the East Africa Power Pool?
The East African Power Pool is an initiative where energy can be pooled and leveraged for different countries, where even beyond, for instance, neighbor countries like Djibouti and Ethiopia can have connected lines here, and then you can easily sell the power or export the power. But beyond Djibouti, if there is other countries also, that power pool is thinking how power can be pooled and also distributed. So don't want to get into detail, but that's a big initiative where energy can be leveraged from where it's abundant to other. Of course, the shipping logistics is very critical as well. Of course, we don't have sea, but we have shipping. Ethiopian shipping lines is very big in terms of managing the in and out of commodities. So the shipping lines is also planning to strengthen itself, acquiring more ships. Of course, we have limited numbers, but acquiring more ships. And also in the dry ports, because dry ports is under the shipping lines. They really modernize the dry ports, how we don't have to keep our commodities somewhere stuck and with huge demurrage costs, but we can transfer them to these dry ports where efficiently also goods can be distributed to where they're distant. So this is also another infrastructure I wanted to really bring, among others.
I mean, in terms of Ethiopia's location, it's quite strategic. How would you say that Ethiopia is leveraging its strategic location to become a key African trade hub?
So Ethiopia is strategic in terms of our location, where we are at the core of the Horn of Africa. But in terms of leveraging, there is huge potential, not only to African countries, but also to the Middle East and Europe. So this strategic location, coupled with the infrastructure that we are building, really need to help us to be the hub for trade. So there's a very big potential for Ethiopia to be the hub for trade with this location advantage, and also with its infrastructure connectedness we are doing with major investments.
I mean, some of the parallel things that we've been doing and are currently engaged in is also creating a conducive business environment, particularly to attract FDI. With some of the issues that you've raised in terms of expanding our role in intra-continental trade, the various initiatives that we're undertaking in terms of preparedness for accession to the WTO, what would you say would be the benefits of foreign direct investment that can be maximized out of Ethiopia's regional integration efforts?
So one of the expected results from our reform is boosting the FDI flow to the country. When we say that, what are we doing to do that is at the core of it, ease of doing business is critical. You cannot expect foreign investor to come to your country if your rules are not clear, if your rules are not predictable enough, if they change quite often, if the process they take is very cumbersome, if there is red tape to get anything. All these are critical in terms of foreign investors to come, because they choose countries. Yeah, foreign investor is coming to really invest and make profit, right? So when you look into that, if they say country X and Y, which is the easiest for me. So it's not like they are forced to come to Ethiopia. They would see the enabling environment for investments. They will assess. Even they see independent, assessors' results. If you see into the sovereign rating process, they see maybe Moody's, Fitch, because they really want an independent view of the country before they come and invest. Because when they come, they invest, they also take finance from different institutions. And that financial institution that is giving loan, look into them, into the country and rate the risk. So when the risk is high, the cost of getting finance becomes huge. So it is really very detailed when you look into how foreign investor comes to assess a country or assess Ethiopia. So with this reform that we are undertaking, so many processes are being improved. So many rules are being set. So that really gives the confidence for investors to come. Of course, I'm not saying that every issue is resolved, but this is major kind of reform that we are doing, and step by step.
But I mean, as part of regional integration, there's also harmonization that takes place. Is that an added benefit for foreign direct investment, and in what ways?
Yes. So when you join these regional blocks, or when you join the global trading system, there are rules, so many rules. So to adhere to some of the rules, you need to look into your house itself and see how your rules are now.
Are attracting.
How your rules are aligned to the rules of WTO, the rules of CFTA. So it is going to be inevitable to really align, to make sure you are following international best practice. So with that, joining the WTO or the Continental Free Trade Area, helps us to adjust to those rules.
It's a guarantee for foreign direct investment.
Yes,
in a sense.
So for foreign investors, if they say that Ethiopia joined WTO, then it's also a green light kind of thing. Because in joining WTO, there are so many things that you have to do. You have to clean your house, or you have to really, if you don't have the rules, you have to bring them. If you have the rules, you have to really set the mechanisms that the rules are enforceable. So these are, you would also capacitate yourself in terms of institutions where rules are not just rules, but rules that are going to be adhered. So it gives confidence to the foreign investors to come and invest. That's one thing. The second part is it also brings competitiveness. So in terms of competitiveness, in a sense that if, the major in regional integration is also slowly removing all tariff and also non-tariff barriers. So the cost for production of any good becomes less and less. That means if we don't have those kind of additional tariff and customs levies and so on. So with that, competitiveness becomes key. Now, for instance, if you are putting 50% tax with a negotiation and so on, you will come to 10%. Then the cost of that product becomes cheaper because there is no additional 50, rather 10%. So with this, the competitiveness of the products foreign investors come to Ethiopia and produce becomes lower, then they can have access to different markets. So it really boosts competitiveness,
which I wanted
in terms of price.
Expand a little bit on in terms of market size and market access as well.
So, for instance, in the short term, you may feel that getting into these regional blocks or integration or global system, because you're going to reduce your tariffs, some loss in terms of revenue would be the immediate implications. But when you look into the market that is being created for you, and of course, you need to really work on growing volume of exportable items, but the leverage would really be exponential in terms of gains than the gains that you have been collecting from tax and so on. So that is the market. But market access also is directly related to competitiveness. So when you go to X market, your product from another country product should be competitive in terms of price, quality, and so on. So that is something related also in terms of efficiency, in terms of your production efficiency, how in smaller cost you can produce. So one of the area where we need to really look into our industries is efficiency, and also production at a maximum capacity, because our capacity currently is very maybe 50% and so on. So we need to really boost that so that the efficiency of our industries becomes bigger and the competitiveness would come into play, basically. So that's one thing I want to say. The other point this regional integration would bring for FDI is market access. If ex-investor come to Ethiopia and invest, it's not about investing for local market as well, but the continent. For instance, if you look into
55 countries that are part of the
55,
CFTA.
56 countries, easily with the same kind of concession, they can, as long as they really meet the rules of origin. The rules of origin rules. They can really take it to 50-something countries. So this would really is very critical for FDI, that means. So market access, competitiveness, confidence is the key elements of regional integration for FDI, I would say, in short.
My last question to you, Yasmin, there's so many exciting things that are happening around trade, around economic reforms, particularly within the area that you're focused on in regional integration. What are you most looking forward to?
So I look forward for Ethiopia to really implement those regional integrations that we are implement in a sense, and get into the trade itself. Now we have signed, we have made all the preparation for a continental free trade area. Implementation is something that really can give us the gains. If we don't seriously engage in that and we just say that we signed, no gain. So I really envisage the AfCFTA to be fully implemented in Ethiopia.
What do we offer through that implementation? What does Ethiopia offer?
So we offer, our comparative advantage where we have in terms of agricultural products, manufacturing, especially textile, which is very key. So different areas like I said, the implementation strategy is finalized. It will give us a clue where we're going to focus. But agriculture is, of course, going to be
the primary.
Primary for some time. But value addition is critical. We just export raw. So immediately we can think of value addition of our agricultural product. Sesame, for instance, you can do tahini, and we can get more return from it than exporting raw material. And coffee in itself, and the other that we have, mining is coming to play as a critical item. So energy, like I said, is still generating, but we can do more. Manufacturing itself in textile, leather is critical area where we have the abundance in terms of live animals in itself. But live animals, they are being exported just like that. But we can't really do the meat processing. Of course, we have them, but to a bigger volume and expand to Middle East and other markets as well. So in terms of export, commodity diversification, in terms of destination diversification, this regional integration is going to be leveraged. Of course, the bigger would be also WTO. The same, we really need to see where our comparative advantage in terms of manufacturing, because manufacturing is critical. Unless we advance in manufacturing, our growth is going to be slow. Imagine currently we have an export close to 4 billion. Of course, it was previous data. Our performance this time is very big. The economic reform, I didn't really say it, but the foreign exchange policy that has been recently launched to make for FX rates determined by market is critical to really boost export. Yeah, so with that, so we need to work on manufacturing to really make sure that the value addition really happens, the job creation happens, and the gains becomes exponential as well. So from the regional integration, I would see the economic gains to be realized, our export to be very bigger, so that we don't worry about some of the issues that really concern us now. We can think more bigger agendas on developments, on social welfare, and for the current and also future citizen.
Thank you very much, Yasmin.
Thank you so much.
For Ethiopia specifically, some of the skepticism when it comes to tourism numbers has been about data retention. What is your ministry doing in this regard, and what are we doing within the sector to be able to understand really what kind of tourists are coming to the country, what their needs are, and what are the numbers?
Understanding the sector itself is identifying where you need to, as a government, where you need to intervene and invest. So to get that clear idea, you need to have the data, you need to have the numbers, you need to have the corroborated information. So finding out what kind of economical input the tourism sector has in the macroeconomic level would give a clear idea to think about the future plans, to invest, to promote the sector itself. So having that, the satellite account has been developed and has also been officially inaugurated a few months ago. Not just the Minister of Tourism, but also other stakeholders will have a huge play towards using that account so that they can have a clear idea of the sector itself and the impact that it has on the macroeconomic level of the country.